Libertas, Pope Leo XIII, what year?
1884.
We left off on page 13, paragraph 24, on the bottom. Take it, Anthony, page 13, paragraph 24.
A like judgment must be passed upon what is called liberty of teaching. There can be no doubt that truth alone should imbue the minds of men, for in it are found the well-being, the end, and the perfection of every intelligent nature. And therefore nothing but truth should be taught, both to the ignorant and to the educated, so as to bring knowledge to those who have it not, and to preserve it in those who possess it.
Okay, this one sentence is powerful, very powerful. So the intellect is made for
Truth.
those who form the intellects of children should feed them what?
Truth.
Truth.
What are they doing if they feed them lies and vice and immorality?
They're malforming them. I mean, they're forming them badly.
Yes.
Away from their end.
It's what would be worse, feeding them poison for their lunches, or feeding them poison in their teachings?
Teaching.
It's much worse, but both are bad. Both are bad, but you see the crime, and in this light you see the crime of modern education. So repeat that sentence again.
A like judgment must be passed upon what is called liberty of teaching. There can be no doubt that truth alone should imbue the minds of men, for in it are found the well-being, the end, and the perfection of every intelligent nature. And therefore nothing but truth should be taught both to the ignorant and to the educated, so as to bring knowledge to those who have it not, and to preserve it in those who possess it.
Very powerful, yes. Only truth has rights. Only truth has rights to be taught. So, this is why we should be thirsty always for truth, to study, to read, to feed the soul, and not fill it with nonsense. I think that's another one of the devil's distractions is, these endless video games that last months and weeks, hours and hours. It's just a waste of the intelligence. It really is. Go on.
For this reason, it is plainly the duty of all who teach to banish error from the mind, and by sure safeguards to close the entry to all false convictions. From this it follows, as is evident, that the liberty of which we have been speaking is greatly opposed to reason.
All right, so what's opposed to reason?
The liberty of teaching. Right?
The liberty of teaching whatever you want, yes. Is opposed to what?
Reason.
So, in other words, it's unreasonable to teach, to give liberty of teaching what?
Rights. Or
It's unreasonable to hold that liberty of teaching error, liberty of teaching anything. Protestantism, socialism, communism, evolution. These are crimes against reason and against truth. Go on. We start the sentence over. From this it follows.
From this it follows, as is evident, that the liberty of which we have been speaking is greatly opposed to reason, and tends absolutely to pervert men's minds, inasmuch as it claims for itself the right of teaching whatever it pleases, a liberty which the state cannot grant without failing in its duty. And the more so because the authority of teachers has great weight with their hearers, who can rarely decide for themselves as to the truth or falsehood of the instruction given to them.
Serious, very serious. I told you of the young family, the 10-year-old girl, she's in public school, or was it Catholic school? And the parents finally decided to pull their kids out and homeschool them, finally. But what did it take? It took the 10-year-old girl coming home and saying, Mom, the other kids all have cell phones and they're showing dirty pictures. Mom, the other kids are touching each other in private parts. Mom, the teacher is a man, but he has a picture on his desk of his boyfriend or husband with a little baby. and their teacher has a rainbow bracelet.
That's already too far.
Yeah,
That's already too far. You can never take that away from the 10-year-old girl.
that will forever mark her.
She'll always remember that.
Yeah,
She'll always have it.
She's already scandalized.
Yeah.
You're right, it is too late. It's already too late. But at least better late than never.
Yeah.
Better late than never. But what does it take to get through these families? Homeschooling it's the only answer unless you really have a good traditional school to go to. But even then, what's the position of the priests in your congregation of the priests? So it's not easy today. So it was a wonderful era when you could send your kids to the sisters, to the Christian brothers, to the priests, and know they were getting a solid formation. Think of St. Teresa of the Child Jesus. She went to where'd she go as a girl?
She went to a school run by nuns.
Benedictine nuns. And they were good sisters. She loved the sisters. St. Teresa got straight A's in her catechism. And it's a wonderful thing. My mother was in Belgium. She was taught by the sisters her whole life. And they loved the sisters. They were good sisters, you know. Very good to the girls. And they ran summer camps where they taught them, you know, had games for the girls and taught them how to cook, taught them even what breads to cook. Some breads are not for breakfast, some breads are for lunch, some breads are for supper, some are pastries, and they learn all this, which women should know. The difference between breads and what desserts and what even the drinks to serve. You know, wine should be white wine with white meat, red wine with red meat, for example. Women, mothers of a house should know these things. And the sisters also used to teach them how to take care of little babies. You know, all these poor modern girls in these feminist, liberal, rotten schools, what do they learn? They learn how to sin. They learn how to dress immodest. They learn how to wrestle or play basketball or play soccer or worse, hockey, where they don't belong, or football even, which is worse. They don't belong in these heavy contact sports. So, Father, you're saying girls can't have any sports? Well, no. They're girls, they need some activities. But feminine, that respects the nature of their femininity, such as volleyball, such as a certain maybe soccer, a certain place for soccer. They're just kicking the ball, but they're not checking or anything. Tennis is very fitting for girls. And just simple play, tag, but dodgeball doesn't belong for girls. That's a boys' sport. Dodgeball.
Oh, yeah.
Ever play it?
Yeah, it's fun.
Where they destroy each other with
Yeah.
balls.
And we used to play. We were in public school, so when there was girls in there, you had to be careful not to hit them too hard.
That's
but when
right.
it was boys against boys, it was amazing.
That's right.
It's like you throw it as hard as you can, you
That's
smash
right.
someone in the face, and they go
That's
down
right.
on the floor.
All unleashed, yes. Same in hockey, same in football, same in wrestling. They don't belong in these sports. Nor do women belong in the front, in the infantry of army. That is the biggest liberal joke in the world. Did all of you see that military advertisement a couple years ago under Biden? It was the Air Force, an advertisement. And there's this poor girl that's saying, I grew up with two mommies. And did you see it? It's kind of a cartoon.
Yeah, I saw it.
And it's all feminist, it's liberal, it's woke, and it's just pure garbage. It's a joke.
The one I saw was it just compared the American advertisement for that to like the Russian
The
one.
Russian
It was
one,
like
yeah.
super masculine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Russian one is all men. He's up disciplined, he's up early, and the training is extremely physical, extremely formative for going into war to defend their homeland. But it's all men, right? Where's the place for women in the military? Maybe in the kitchen, certainly in the nursing field, but not in combat. And in fact, as many men will tell you, and policemen will tell you, women are dangerous to have. Because the man is going to instinctively protect her. So he's got to take his focus off the enemy, focus on her, and get shot. Which happens in war. It's so stupid.
See, that's why liberalism, like leading to feminism, that's why it's such a perversion of the mind. Because think about it, they tell women, oh, be independent, be a strong woman. But then you can only find value in being a woman if you act like a man.
Mm-hmm.
If you are, stay at home and you cook and you clean, that's not valuable. Right? Be a strong woman, but you can only find value of being a woman if you act like a man. It's a contract. It doesn't make any sense.
And it's revolting, because a man doesn't want to marry a manly woman. That's the last thing he wants if he's a decent man. He wants a feminine woman who knows how to cook, knows how to take care of babies, loves what's of the house. And it's refreshing to see that. Especially in the traditional girls, we have a lot of that. Girls who still want to be feminine, dress feminine, and are interested in feminine things. But as I was saying, the schools, especially the sisters' schools, used to do this for the girls. And the boys' schools were very serious. Look at St. John Bosco, St. Jean-Baptiste de La Salle. The La Salle brothers used to be everywhere. The Salesians. And they formed good boys. And in Europe, the practice usually was at age 13, the boys who are more practical, boys who want to learn a trade and are not so interested in books, they start learning a trade at age 13. Carpentry, plumbing, mechanics, engineering, whatever. They start getting their formation in that direction. With religion and history, of course, and basic knowledge. But by the time they graduate, they're ready to get married and support a family. And now that's healthy, that's normal. Not that they have to get married, but they're ready. They're young men already. While even after graduating college, they're worse. They're in heavy debt, and they still don't know anything. And they got more vice and sin on their soul. So they're more depressed and more confused than ever. What a crime modern education is. It's a crime. And those who planned all this, modern education, they're just laughing. The Goyim are falling for our fodder, our poison, and they are.
Another thing they tell women is that career comes first. Like, get your career in order and then have kids. Like, same thing. It's that should be the man's mentality. And then a lot of women who fall for that, later on they put their career first, and they look back and they're like, wow, I want kids.
That's right.
And then they realize that they would have been happier in that life.
Yeah.
Or if they just stayed home, raised a family, because they're naturally more fulfilled in that, because that's how God created them.
That's right. They're lonely. They're lonely and often depressive, because a lot of modern women have had abortions. So, you know how he was saying in the catechism, we were just studying, God always forgives, right? As long as you're sorry, God forgives. But the saying, God always forgives, man sometimes forgives, nature never forgives. So if a woman or a man does something against nature, it will always be there. They can be forgiven, but nature, they'll never forget it. You drive a nail into wood and you yank out the nail, that hole is there. And it's true, grace can heal that hole. Grace can heal the wounds of sin. But when we sin against nature, so these women who wake up one day childless, having had 5 abortions, and they're in their 50s, and they realize, what did I do with my life? I have no children, no grandchildren. I'm a career woman, I have all this money, but what did I get? And many of them become fit for the loony bin. They have to take drugs to, especially if they're not Catholic and have no faith, they have to take drugs to keep out of depression. So they spend thousands of dollars seeing these psychiatrists and psychologists who just give them more support from Pfizer and Moderno. And so it's a vicious cycle of poison and death. That's the liberal culture. It's all lies. All right, verse 25, paragraph 25, Michael.
Wherefore, this liberty also, in order that it may deserve the name, must be kept within certain limits, lest the office of teaching be turned with impunity into an instrument of corruption.
Okay, so liberty has to be what?
Limited.
Yeah, it has to be curtailed. Right? Can you imagine buying a car and the seller says, look, we got the best car. This car is called freedom. Freedom. You can press the pedal, you can go as fast as you want. It outruns cops super fast. You're free to drive wherever you want. But it has no brakes. But you're free, but it has no brakes. Would you buy that car?
Maybe a rebellious teenager would, but
Yeah.
wouldn't work on the road.
So you see what the Pope is saying. Liberty, okay, but with brakes. You need the brakes. You need the guardrails. And go on.
Now, truth, which should be the only subject matter of those who teach, is of two kinds, natural and supernatural. Of natural truths, such as the principles of nature, and whatever is derived from them immediately by our reason. There is a kind of common patrimony in the human race. On this, as on a firm basis, morality, justice, religion, and the very bonds of human society rest. And to allow people to go unharmed who violate or destroy it would be most impious and most foolish and most inhuman.
So what's he saying, anyone?
Saying that
So he's writing to bishops, so it's elevated language. But how would you put this into Gerber baby form?
Liberty needs limits. Teachers should only teach truth. And if you can do what you want and not be punished, that's wrong.
Yes. So some teachers should be fired. A ton of college professors should be fired. And presidents and priests in charge, like Notre Dame, they should be completely fired. But so in a system where truth is taught in all the schools, especially the Catholic schools, it's fresh air. It's refreshing for the children because they know it's truth, even though they don't like studying. Most of them, they don't like homework, but that's part of the fallen nature. But they're getting truth. And that's the difference between Catholic schools and these rotten schools. The youth are lively, full of life, in the state of grace, or at least trying to be, and full of energy and loving life and living in truth. That's how it should be. While these modern public schools are half of them on drugs, half of them depressed, half of them broken homes, half of them aimless, and already atheists. By age 8, there's already atheists. Because they've been taught evolution. Paragraph 26, Guadalupe.
But with no less religious care must we preserve the great and sacred treasure of the truths which God himself has taught us. By many and convincing arguments, often used by defenders of Christianity, certain leading truths have been laid down, namely, that some things have been revealed by God, that the only begotten Son of God was made flesh, to bear witness to the truth, that a perfect society was founded by him, the Church, namely, of which he is the head, and with which he has promised to abide to the end of the world. To this society he entrusted all the truths which he had taught, in order that it might keep and guard them, and with lawful authority explain them. And at the same time he commanded all nations to hear the voice of the church, as if it were his own, threatening those who would not hear it with everlasting perdition. Thus it is manifest that man's best and surest teacher is God, the source and principle of all truth, and the only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, the way, the truth, and the life, the true light which enlightens every man, and to whose teaching all must submit. And they shall all be taught of God.
So if those who refuse to hear the Catholic teaching by the men who are supposed to teach, priests, bishops, pope, are threatened with eternal damnation for refusing to hear, knowingly and willingly, what is the reward of those who are supposed to teach the truth and don't? Pope, bishops, priests.
You would assume eternal damnation.
A hell far worse than anybody. That's why I'm convinced. I don't think these modern popes made it. I really don't. Maybe Pope John Paul II, because he had some devotion to Our Lady, and he did hold the rosary and encourage the rosary. He might have saved his soul by the bare skin of his teeth. Just because Our Lady said, my son, I know he deserves hell, he's a rotten pope, but he did say his rosary and he did encourage others to say it. Maybe. I don't think others made it. I'm not judging, I'm just saying, my 2-cent opinion, the damage they have done, these popes. And if they weren't popes, the damage wouldn't be so extensive. But because they are popes, it is extensive. It affects the whole world. And look how many are in hell and are falling into hell because of Paul VI with his new Mass, and John Paul II with his new Code of Canon Law, allowing communion to heretics, and Benedict XVI with all this cunning wolvery to seduce the traditional groups into compromise. He's the one that captured Bishop Follet. It was a big prize. He captured him. And just recently, Bishop Follet had an interview with a fine black woman, and I think in Nigeria, he's in Africa. And he's quoting Pope Benedict XVI. You never hear him quote Archbishop Lefebvre, our founder, who we should have a special gratitude to. But he quotes Benedict XVI, who was a wolf. So anyway, so he's presuming that the Pope, bishops, priests are always teaching the truth and will do it in the face of death. But what would he say today when the popes are scandals? The bishops are all heretics and modernists, and the clergy are just aimless. So in that light, you see the heroic role men are called to be priests, to help the church steer back to tradition. Real heroic men are needed. In one of the battles in the Middle Ages in Jerusalem, the Crusades are fighting the Muslims. And the Crusaders have they're going to the wall, and they got this 4-wheeled, huge, massive structure wheeling its way to the wall. And the Crusaders climb up and go over the wall and invade the city. But in one of the wheels and one of the legs broke. And I think it's Godfrey of Bouillon. I'm just scratching way back in memory here, but I think it's Godfrey, a big tough French knight, gets under the peg and holds it up and sacrifices all his strength. And it takes all his strength. He's probably dripping with sweat, just holding it up so the men can get over the wall. I don't know if he died from it, but he certainly did a heroic sacrifice. So that's kind of what's needed now, is someone's got to fill in that gap to help the church redirect and help, I say humanly, help Our Lady. She doesn't need us, but help her victory. Help bring about her victory of her Immaculate Heart. 27, Guadalupe. Did you just read 26?
I did.
Okay, 27, Tony.
In faith and the teaching of morality, God himself made the church a partaker of his divine authority, and through his heavenly gift she cannot be deceived. She is therefore the greatest and most reliable teacher of mankind, and in her swells an inviolable right to teach them. Sustained by the truth received from her divine founder, the church has ever sought to fulfill wholly the mission entrusted to her by God, unconquered by the difficulties on all sides surrounding her. She has never ceased to assert her liberty of teaching, and in this way, the wretched superstition of paganism being dispelled, the wide world was renewed unto Christian wisdom. Now, reason itself clearly teaches that the truths of divine revelation and those of nature cannot really be opposed to one another, and that whatever is at variance with them must necessarily be false.
Okay, truths of supernatural truths, revelation, all that's contained in the faith, cannot contradict those of reason or nature. Nature and reason go together. Faith and reason go together. Nature and grace go together. Grace builds on nature. They are not opposed, as this has to be clearly made manifest. They're not opposed. They're in harmony. Go on.
Therefore, the divine teaching of the church, so far from being an obstacle to the pursuit of learning and the progress of science, or in any way retarding the advance of civilization, in reality brings to them the sure guidance of shining light. And for the same reason, it is of no small advantage for the perfecting of human liberty, since our Savior Jesus Christ has said that by truth is man made free. Quote, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." End quote. Therefore, there is no reason why genuine liberty should grow indignant, or true science feel aggrieved at having to bear the just and necessary restraint of laws by which, in the judgment of the church and of reason itself, human teaching has to be controlled.
That's right. Human teaching has to be kept in guardrails. So the queen of all sciences is what?
Theology.
That's right. Theology. That's the symbol for theology. And the next highest is
Philosophy.
yes, the love of wisdom. And then all the other sciences fall in place. Physics, math, engineering. What else? All the other sciences, chemistry,
Biology.
yes, and logic, and all the other sciences, right? But let's say you get Joe Chemist, or Joe Archaeologist, all right? And he finds a bone and says, oh, this proves Genesis is wrong, because this bone belongs to an ancient monkey who was the great-great-grandfather of the human race. So a priori, you know he's wrong because he's going against theology. And if he steps out of his realm and starts talking theology, that, you know, there's a man evolved and he comes from apes, and then theology just zaps him. You're wrong. Get back in place. And that's the role of theology. It keeps all these errors of the other sciences when they step out of their realm, right? Chemistry should be involved with chemistry and the chart of the elements, right? That's fine. Know your chemistry, but don't start philosophizing and being a theologian when it's out of your realm, or archaeologist. And that's where the role of theology and Mother Church zaps them, spanks them, or shoots them when they step out of line. And that's why in a Catholic system it's true freedom, because you're learning truth. But when these guys start promoting their heresy and error and they're given a right to teach, it just sows doubt, skepticism, atheism in the minds of the young, which is a criminal, a crime, a serious crime. What does our Lord say about those who scandalize the young? Better that
A millstone be tied around their neck, and they be thrust into the depth of the sea.
than to scandalize one of these little ones, right? So, sometimes on the plane, I've sat with some guys who went to Jesuit school, university, and one guy was saying, "Oh the sisters were so mean, and they hit our knuckles when we misbehaved in class." Or one brother hit a kid with his book on top of his head, just a little, tap on his head. Behave. One of my teachers too in history, that was the case of the book. And you heard Tom's story about the sister that broke both her wrists. So she had the old cast, plaster calves. So one kid was really misbehaving, and she said, "Johnny, come here." He comes to the desk. "Come here, look closer." And he bends his head, and pop, she hits him on the head. But, it didn't kill him. It didn't move him to tears. But he understood. Behave. So what I often tell these guys when they start trashing on the sisters, and I understand maybe there was one or two mean sisters. That's very possible. Sisters are human, and they can have bad days. They should be more supernatural, but they're working on it. So, but when they give the whole general picture, all the nuns were brutal. They're sister battle axe, sister snapdragon, sister torture. When they start doing that, but I always tell them, look, in all your class, did you have suicides? No. Did they all succeed? Yes, everyone became successful in the world. They might not all have the faith, but they all succeeded. So the discipline, the good education that the sisters gave them made them what they are. And this guy was a successful businessman, sitting in first class. And sometimes they put the priest up in first class, so you end up, I'd rather give it to someone else myself, but sometimes you just accept it. And God puts you near someone like that. So this guy, I reminded him, look, the sisters might have been very disciplined, but no one in your class was depressed. They were full of life, full of joy. And especially boys appreciate discipline. They really do. They appreciate. That's probably their favorite sister, is the one that hit their knuckles once in a while. So, but they exaggerate, But today, there's no discipline, no truth, and the kids are depressed, on drugs, they're immoral, and now someone said that some of the kids get in grade school, what is your sexual orientation? And they have a whole list, bisexual, transsexual, this, that. I can't even know the names of these idiots. And they're giving this to kids, and they have to fill out what they are. These people should really, in a normal society, would be executed. The crime that they're doing to these children. It's an unbelievable crime. And they're going to burn in hell, deep in the pits of hell, for scandalizing the little ones. But the teaching staff in the United States, many of them have been rebuked by honest and good parents, and they do nothing. Why? Because they're getting money from the higher-ups. And who's the higher-up and higher-up and higher-up? You'll always find what?
Jews.
The synagogue of Satan. Because they rot the goyim, and that's their plan. We will rot them so they fall like a ripe pair in our hands. And another thing that really rots the children is marijuana. It just breaks their bone, breaks their spine. Yeah, but it's medicine and it's this. No. It does incredible harm and leads often to harder drugs. Okay. So, Tony, where'd you leave off?
The end of 27.
All right. Paragraph 28. Pick it up, Andres.
The church, indeed, as facts have everywhere proved, looks chiefly and above all to the defense of the Christian faith, while careful at the same time to foster and promote every kind of human learning. For learning is in itself good and praiseworthy and desirable. And further, all erudition, which is the outgrowth of sound reason and in conformity with the truth of things, serves not a little to confirm what we believe on the authority of God.
All right. So does the church discourage the study of chemistry and advancing in physics and engineering?
No.
No, not at all. She encourages all of it. Progress. Medicine. Do help your fellow man. Increase, by antibiotics. Increase your surgery skills. And they can do incredible things with surgery now. Without even a knife, they can pull out a gallbladder. No knife, no cut. Just two little pincers. It's quite amazing. But to use these modern medical machines to kill babies, that's when the church says, you're out of your zone, zap. Step back in line, you have no right to kill a human life. Sterilizing the mothers, you have no right to do this. You see? So it's the church and with the sound theology that keeps everything in order. But you need these guardrails. If you don't have them, it's chaos and everything collapses. So the church is the one who really does encourage, go forth and multiply your knowledge. Go forth and advance with your sciences. That's fine. But don't become theologians and don't start pretending that you have a morality to define who dies and who doesn't live, who dies and who lives. And now the medicine is so advanced that they can even zero in, tell at a young age by ultrasound if the baby is a boy or girl. They can already see the features. That's how precise it is, how vivid the image is. And what the doctors often say, and I've heard this from couples, the ultrasound shows that your baby might have meningitis, or your baby might have 4 fingers instead of 5, or your baby might have this or that disease. Would you like to terminate the pregnancy? And one young guy from Syracuse, just newly married, I think first or second baby, he said it took all his strength from decking that doctor. He wanted to just deck him because he was proposing to kill his baby. And guess what? The baby was born, no problems. They pull that all the time. And another thing they always pull on the mothers, oh, you just had your second baby, it's very dangerous, you should probably get sterilized or go on birth control. Very evil. It's a whole evil system. They have no right to be doing that. And it wouldn't be happening in Catholic hospitals run by sisters. It wouldn't be happening. So everything the Pope here is saying is absolutely true. And it's so good. And it's refreshing, isn't it, to hear sound, good doctrine. And that's the popes doing their duty. And we're still benefiting from these good popes. Adjutorium nostrum in nomine Domini.